Hey guys, today I've got a really boring video for you. I had a really cool thing about this new guitar, this Player Series Telecaster. I got a Fat Cat put in it and a little 59 put in the bridge, and I was really pumped about it. And then I had a grounding issue, and I wanted to get this out. I hadn't had a video out in a couple of weeks, simply because I didn't have a camera for the past 3 weeks. Then I got mine back, got a lot of stuff to talk about, but I hadn't had any time. So, what we're going to talk about today isn't new, it isn't cool, it isn't flashy, but it can change everything about the way you play the guitar. So consider yourself warned. This is boring. Let's talk about compression. So what does compression do? What does this little box do for you? It doesn't seem like a fun way to spend money at all, right? There's so many cool fuzzes out there. There's tremolo effects and reverbs and delays and compression or EQ. What do these do for you? Well, they change your tone. They change the way you play. They change the way you sound to other people in ways that the other people aren't aware of. But what does compression do? Compression is short for dynamic range compression. And what does that mean? Your dynamics are the softness or loudness with which you play, and the range, the degree to which you have peaks and you have valleys in your audio signal. And compressing that range means making those softs softer and those louds louder. Wait, no, that's not it. It means making those softs louder and those louds softer, so that you're fitting things within a smaller range, where it might go from here to here, normally from the bottom to the top. And you want to make that just a little bit crunchier so that the bottom is a little louder and the top is a little bit softer. Now, why wouldn't somebody want a lot of dynamic range? Well, it's not that you don't. Dynamics are important, but if you have a low that's so low and you have a high that's so high in terms of volume, then there's not a lot you can do to adjust that. And so the soft parts, because you can't make them overall more loud without compression. Only by adding gain can you make them louder. When you add gain to those loud parts, it then ends up clipping. So what a compression software or pedal or, Eurorack or anything else allows you to do is it allows you to make it so that those quiet parts are just a little bit louder, and everything can fit in the mix a little bit better while staying as loud as other tracks in that same genre. Because nothing is more distracting when you're listening to a song on Spotify or Apple Music, and suddenly the dynamics of the song are such that you can't hear the song start up, or things seem that much quieter than everything else. Okay, so compression changes the way you play. Even though you might not have distortion or reverb that allows you to sit with the tone a little bit longer, it changes the tone. It changes the way that your guitar and your amp feel in your hands and the way that you respond to things. It makes the tone better in a lot of ways. It makes things more responsive. It makes things stay more stable. So when you're doing something like tapping or harmonics, things sound more stable. They sound better. They hang longer. There's more sustain on them. In the intro song, I did a couple of things to sort of illustrate this. So the intro riff, you hear that percussive tapping. Well, sometimes if you weren't using compression, you might lose a little bit of that. So that's one way in which I try and use that. Also in the solo, I end on a long sustaining note. This here has a sustained tone, and that brings up the volume on tones that are hanging out a little bit longer on leads and things like that. The upward compression which upward compression is when you're bringing the volume up on something that has a lower volume, as opposed to downward compression, which is taking the peaks and pushing them down a little bit. It allows things like tapping where you don't have a pick attack, or you might not have as strong of an attack in general, to be heard better. And so in the tapping section where I'm doing pentatonic, that I'm doing up the neck until I land on that high note, those are able to be better heard because of the compression pedal which I was using in the mix. So it's just an interesting dynamic. So I wanted to illustrate here by playing the intro riff a couple of times, just so you can see the difference between no blend, which there's a blend control here, which means the blend's all the way down. That means you're getting nothing but the clean signal uncompressed. If you have halfway, that's something similar to what we would call parallel compression, where one signal is fully compressed, the other is not compressed at all, and that way you get a good mix of the dynamics. And then all the way up, which means it's fully compressed, meaning everything, all the settings that I have, which everything's at 12 o'clock here, between volume, sustain, and treble, except for blend. All of those tones are in full force. Everything you hear is the compressed signal. So we're going to play the intro riff 3 times. That's going to give you a good sense of what the compressor is actually doing. So it's an A-B-C comparison. So let's try it. This is completely unblended. You should have a picture up here in the top of the settings on the pedal itself. So unblended. This is an unprocessed signal. Now we're going to do parallel compression, or I think some people call it New York compression, but that is with everything mixed equally. So you have half completely compressed, half uncompressed signal. So that's like basically having your mix of anything else at 50%. And now we're going to do it with the blend all the way up, so you get the fully compressed signal. And you can just see the difference. You can see what this is doing as you blend in more compression. Now, we can talk about compression in that normally when you're working with a compressor, you're actually going to have a threshold, a ratio. So the threshold is the point in decibels at which the compressor kicks in, right? But we don't have that on our tone here. On the Empress, which I'm hoping to get sometime soon, which also has, interestingly enough, a sidechain compression where you can sidechain from other audio sources, which is really cool in real time. You actually do have a threshold on there. But this, it's just applying it uniformly. Also, you have a ratio, which is the degree to which the signal gets compressed once it hits that threshold. So, anyway, here is the fully compressed signal. be honest with you. I wasn't really excited to make this video. It's, it's one of the more mundane things. It's like seeing people in the woodshed versus hearing them play the solo they've been practicing, right? It's a lot cooler to be like, here, I've got this V4 Kraken that sounds awesome. I got this new amp, or this new guitar came out, or Rhett Scholl had this new guitar built by these guys that build really awesome acoustic guitars, right? There's not a lot of cool things to say about compression. There's nothing new to say about compression, for sure. But it changes things. Like I mentioned earlier, it's like salt. You put salt on your eggs and they taste more like eggs. You put it on their steak and it brings out the flavor of the steak, right? Have you had unsalted butter? Butter is great, right? But it's not the same thing. And I think that's how you have to think about compression, right? It might not be fun to get that pedal. It might not be cool, but it changes the way you play and it makes you a more dynamic and interesting player because it gives a different feel and it allows you to have more control over the feel of your music and allows you to respond better to your instrument. There's nothing really cool in this video. I got a bunch of white walls in here and it's the most vanilla video that I think I'll probably ever make. But it is important, and it's important to make use of all the tools that you have that are available, right? So EQ, compression, they're not sexy in any way. There's nothing really cool about them, but they're useful and they change you as a guitar player and make you a better player. So it's important to acknowledge those things and make use of them. And there are cool things you can do with it. Don't let me overstate how boring this video was. But knowing how it works, knowing how to use it, that's not cool. That just is part of the job of being a guitar player and doing a good job creating tone. So it kind of is what it is. But that is to say, you need this. You need a compressor. You need a compressor pedal. You need post-processing compression. You need to know how to use it so that you can be the best possible version of yourself. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it wasn't super interesting or anything, but it's useful in that it's educational. It teaches us how to be better. So please like and subscribe. Please follow me for more videos. I promise the next one will be a little bit more interesting once I get this grounding taken care of in my Telecaster. And I look forward to seeing y'all's comments. Please let me know what else y'all'd like for me to cover. I plan on putting out a video every week to 2 weeks. So just let me know and I'll get it out there. Thanks. I appreciate it.